Karl Marx's reasons for capitalist economy collapse. Introduction. Capitalism has been the evil dog, which has been around for so long, and which has brought many world economies crunching on their heels. The proponents of capitalism have done little in its bad times, only coming up with quick fixes to keep their systems of economies in place without addressing their weaknesses. The world leaders and financial experts have been outdone by the capitalist systems that they maintain. This has been evidenced in the way many capitalist economies handled the recent recession, whereby they never addressed the causes but went ahead to cover themselves by offering recovery plans in the form of loans to revive their economies. This essay will explain the reasons for Karl Marx's prediction of a collapse of the capitalist economy. It will be mainly on the crises and impacts of capitalist economies and a conclusion of such reasons for Marx's forecasts and critical analysis of them given at the end. Reasons for failure of capitalism. Karl Marx, in his justification of his fight against capitalist economies, predicted that these systems would collapse in the future unless they changed and made progress to cope and reinvent new tactics to handle their weakness. He made several predictions about the crises of a capitalist economy and the reasons behind its collapse. They included overproduction, instability due to its cyclic nature, overinvestment in the production of fixed assets instead of consumer products, high labor costs brought about by high wages, and the individualism in the system in Marxism theory of crises. According to Karl Marx, in capitalist economies, there is overproduction of goods, which are traded at a profit, and many investments in industries in the attempt to amass large profits, and to achieve them, labor costs have to be minimal, resulting in low employment. This is due to the fact is an individualistic system of the economy. In times of upward swing in these economies, everyone tends to invest more, which increases production. Thus, in the boom seasons there usually is a big stimulation in fixed capital investments like machinery. This is a bad phenomenon since it implies low investments in consumer goods, which creates a crisis of low supply of consumer goods. These fixed capitals are directed towards more production, but on the onset of the high production, more goods are availed to markets and crises follow. Unemployment, which is at a reduced level during the best season, increases to facilitate high productivity. In turn, profit margins that drove to the high productivity declines. This is a crisis since the high production of goods is not supported by an increase in consumption, which warrants it. In contrast, it is mainly driven by capitalist selfish desires to increase their wealth in terms of high profit. After the increase in employment opportunities, workers' numbers increased, and trade unions started forming. It increases bargaining power, which results in work strikes and demonstrations requesting a pay rise. This results in a reduction in production and further leads to employers laying off workers to reduce and balance out their bargaining power, thereby workers' wages are drastically reduced. During the boom period, there ensues high competition among capitalists, which requires them to come up with advanced and efficient methods of production, to enhance productivity and their profitability. This implies that people in these economies are overworked in exchange for poor wages. Moreover, there would be no equality and fairness in the working environment. Finally, the high competition may result in poor quality of products manufactured, which implies adverse effects on the efficiency of the economy. On the other hand, high competition may result in better quality of products, which translates to high costs in the market, thus the need for measures to be taken to prevent collapse of the capitalist system. The effect is that reduced labor costs and stability among the workforce lead to high profitability, and the cycle continues. The need for improvement is induced by the individualistic nature of capitalists, since they want to cushion themselves against rising labor costs in the future. Thus, during the boom period, when employment is high, they aim at maximal use of the labor force available and their fixed capital. This results in specialization and centralization of the fixed assets, according to Karl Marx. During the capital economy boom period, when most workers are paid minimal salaries, they have little purchasing power to buy the goods produced. Thus, the capitalists, in order to promote their individualism, convince their custodians like the managers to increase workers' salaries. This leads to a scenario where the capitalists' economy calls recession, where the governments have to give money to organizations in terms of loans, failure to which the economy may collapse. This in turn enables them to achieve their goals as people will buy their products and thus their system survives again, and the cycle continues. Conclusion. Marx pointed out that the main reasons for the failure of the capitalist economy come from cyclic states of booms and burst seasons. This implies that capitalism is an unstable and unreliable economy. Overproduction, which is brought about by the dire, need to devise new modes of production to increase profitability. Thirdly, in capitalist economies there usually is overinvestment in new modes and means of production. These are better and more efficient machinery, which are not consumable. There is also the nature of cyclic high salaries and investment costs which puts a burden on the economy. These crises have been evident in the current capitalist economies around the world, which demonstrates that Marx's predictions and reasons were well thought out and carry weight. Contrary to Karl Marx's predictions and causes of a collapse of the capitalist economies, if underconsumption of products is one of the major causes of the collapse, then it would be permanent instead of temporal and cyclical.